Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Michelle Spexarth, and I am running this workshop called Creating Your Own Closure After Narcissistic Abuse tonight. And the reason I'm doing this is because there have been so many people that I have known that just spun out and they really struggled. They were ruminating, they were working through all this stuff, they just kept going around and around, waiting for all these different things. And so I felt like this was a fantastic class workshop to have because we can address these. So, in this class is how to finally release the stress of a narcissistic relationship and move forward with peace, confidence, and clarity. And then I've got a person in my class says, I've been out of the relationship for 10 and a half months. Yes, I'll tell you a little bit about my story in just a little bit. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay. So again, my name is Michelle Spexarth, and I'm the creator of Heal You, Heal Your Kids. And Faye has already put in the chat how many months or years that she has been gone. So thank you so much for sharing that. So anybody else want to add or, whatever about how long they've been out of their relationship? I'm looking on TikTok too. All right, so let's get going. Let's see if I know how to run this thing. It's not doing what I want. Of course it's not. Hold on just a second. Here we go. Let's see. Of course, we're going to have some funny little problems. Let's see if this will work. Okay, so I wanted to share this story with you because this happened to me as I was creating this workshop. I'm going to let Brandy in too. Hello, Brandy. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so this is the funny story before we get going that I want to share with you. So, as I was planning to do this workshop, I had my own issues come up with closure in my own life. And now I do know how to work through this, but I remember the days when I just didn't have the tools. So, this is what happened is that I was working on doing this class and my son, my oldest son, told me that his dad was going to take him to Rome. Well, he took his daughter last year and he went the year before by himself. And then he'd gone 2 years ago by himself then also. And so I was pretty much at peace when my daughter got to go, but there was something about when my son told me about this. And so I started going through all of these things like, why does he get to do all these things? And why can't I do all these things? And, here I am struggling to do this. And I'm, like spinning out just in all of the things about what, he gets to do and he doesn't deserve this. And like just really spinning out about all of these things that he got to do and that he gets to do. And I'm still, I always have to remind myself, you started from ground zero. You started from ground zero. He just kept going with what he was doing. So it wasn't even like he had to create anything new when I left. He just kept going with what he was doing. And I had to create something completely new. And so, but I got stuck in basically just spinning out about, how can he just think that he can just do, all of these things and, there's all these other things that he needs to worry about. And my head just spun out. And so I'm trying to think about like what I'm getting ready to teach you and how in this moment the closure that I had thought that I was responsible for my future. I'm blaming him because I had to start over. I'm blaming him because, he never took responsibility and now he's the party dad and, all of these things. And it was the most interesting thing is that I was writing about this and I truly did in that moment, I felt like a brat. And the reason I did is because there is a tone that I can feel within myself that basically is just like that child that's coming out and is like, it's no fair and he gets to do this and he gets to do that and, all of this stuff. And I'm working so hard. And what happened is that all of a sudden, as I was journaling about this, mid sentence, I stopped and I instantly was like, I feel you. I feel your presence with me. And it was call it God, call it universe, call it whatever works for you. But I could feel him. And I just felt like this big old hug going right around me. And I was just like, oh, that's right. That's okay. We don't need that. We don't need him. We don't need all the things that he has. Um, we just need to make it ourselves. And so I was able to get myself re-regulated off of that and really just like settle into a real peace about it. And so I just wanted to share that with you because I remember those days when I was in such a flurry in my mind, I could not even think straight. I could not even do the things that I needed to do to take care of my family because I was so busy thinking about all these other things that was blaming him and giving him the responsibility and giving him the power and all of these things. And so I want you to know that even though you're going through this now and that I went through it and I'm 8 years out now, it doesn't go away completely, but what does happen is that you learn to what to do. You learn to work with it. You learn to just get over it quicker. Okay. So the entire thing is that we learn how to get over it quicker, the tools we need in order to make this happen. Okay. So there we go. That was kind of a long rant, but I really felt like it was important. And that thing just does not want to go now. So that's fine. We're just gonna, oh, I wonder if that's it. Hold on, I'm gonna try something. Ha! I figured it out. I can be taught. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about three things. First one is why closure feels impossible for a narcissistic or after a narcissistic relationship. The second thing is the exact moments women stay stuck waiting for closure. And number three is the simple steps to start creating closure today. So at the end, I'll show you how you can work with me if you want support in creating closure and rebuilding your life. Okay, we're going to move on. Okay, so the lie most women are told is that time heals all wounds. We've all heard that. Time heals all wounds. And it's not true. We can't just sit exactly where we are and expect that time to take care of all the pain and all of the stuff that's happening within us. So it's just not true. So, but after you've been in a narcissistic relationship, you know time alone does not fix it because months or even years later, you can still find yourself replaying conversations, questioning your decision to leave, wondering if they'll ever understand what they did. It just doesn't come from time. It comes from a shift in how you process what happened. I'm on a roll. Okay, what lack of closure actually looks like is it doesn't always look dramatic. It shows up in little moments throughout your day. So just think about this. You're sitting there, it's Tuesday, 2 p.m., and you see a message pop up from them. And suddenly your stomach drops and your brain starts racing. What do they want now? Are they going to apologize? Did I handle this wrong? What am I supposed to do? And what are they going to be throwing at us? And it just hijacks the rest of your afternoon. In fact, it may hijack days. I remember one text could hijack me for days and days. And I mean, just like my entire body just went into this fight and flight response of just getting busy cleaning stuff, but I could not answer the text. So that's what unresolved closure looks like. Why does this happen? So narcissistic relationships train your brain to keep searching for answers. They train you to look for external validation instead of believing yourself and trusting yourself. So even after the relationship ends, you might your mind keeps trying to understand what happened, make sense of their behavior, get validation that you were right to leave, or maybe they should go back, or maybe you should go back. Okay? But these don't work. Okay? Those answers don't come. There was something I wanted to tell you here about the training your brain. So the narcissist is basically they've got you in this pattern of love bombing you and then making you feel like a piece of crap. There's another word for it, can't think of it right now. And then they just keep doing this back and forth. And it is the most damaging thing that a person can do to another person because they look for that love again even though they're getting treated like crap in that second in that moment, and so they keep hoping for it, and then it comes and they're like yes. So if you'll think about it, the narcissist will love bomb you until they know they've got you and that you're not going to leave, and then they'll start gaslighting you, lying to you, manipulating you, doing all of these things until you are so worn down that they're like, oop, they're about gone. I'm about to lose them here, and then the love bombing comes back around. And the other big part of that is that when you don't know when that shift is going to come, it is just cruel because there's nothing you can look forward to. There's nothing you can count on except for you can't count on anything. So that is how we get caught up in these narcissistic relationships, and that they train us to keep searching for the answers and to keep hoping that things are going to get better. And then they just give you the little breadcrumbs of things are going to get better, but then they don't. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. For years, I stayed stuck in this same cycle. And I kept thinking, if he would just understand, if he would just say he was sorry, if he would just admit what had happened, if he would just. And I remember blatantly asking, do you know why I left? I mean, I had very, very specifically told him why I left. And so when I said, do you know why I left? And he kept saying, because I was being a jerk, and it was always all these little deflections of all this stuff of minimizing his behavior. And it never, never came. And I finally just had to give up. But it took me so long to do this. It took me 4 years to realize that closure wasn't going to come from him, that I had to create it for myself. 4 years. Okay. And now I help my clients do this in months instead of years. And that's why this work is important, because I've figured out how to do it. And now I'm going to show you and teach you and train you how to do it way faster than me. Okay. All right, so I want to talk about Dawn. This is a little bit about her story. After I left, there should have been a comma there. The abuse seemed like it got so much worse. I struggled to be okay in general with anything in life because I was living from one trigger to the next. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to go back. I questioned myself about my decision and felt so tormented about it. I spent about a year in this space, and then I heard about Michelle. All I heard sounded so promising, and I booked a free call with her. When I got off the call, I felt hope. She listened and asked me such amazing questions that really got me thinking about things in my life. We made a plan to get me out of my rumination and help me to create my own closure. This, along with several other areas that I really wanted help with. I'm 3 months in, and I feel so much better and different already. Each session, I feel more like who I want to be. I'm managing stress so much better, and my self-confidence has grown so much. I now know that my life is mine to make how I want, and that my past is in the past. I still think about it a little bit, but I'm no longer spinning the way I had been. So there is hope. Why women stay stuck. Okay, so as we go through these problems, I want you to just kind of think about your life, and things that you have tried and that you've worked on, or that you have done in the past. And this is understanding the exact moment that keeps you trapped in the first step is the first step to moving on. Oh, I did it again. There we go. Problem one, waiting for that apology. So here's a moment that many women experience. It's Thursday evening, you're folding the laundry, and your mind starts replaying an argument, and you think, if he would just admit he was wrong, I could finally move on. So part of you keeps waiting for that apology. But when narcissists apologize, do they ever really apologize? It often sounds like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry you misunderstood, or I'm sorry you fill in the blank. Okay. And instead of giving you closure, it pulls you back into the cycle again. And the funny thing is that somebody that has had clarity in their life, that has maybe not experienced trauma, or they've gotten over trauma, is that they can spot a pathetic, not really, I'm sorry, sorry, a mile away. I was funny because I think it was my daughter that first pointed out to me that the apology was not an apology at all. And I was like, oh, you're so right. So don't think that we're all smart right away, because we're not. And it's okay, because we all have our journey to travel. Let's look at problem number two, searching for the truth. Another moment that keeps women stuck is you're driving home after work, your brain starts replaying things that happened, and you start wondering, was he lying about that? Was there something else? Did I miss something? You think if you could just know the whole truth, it would finally make sense so that you could move on. But instead, your brain just keeps reopening the case like an investigation that never ends. There's all these little things about the narcissistic behaviors that get you to wondering, or did that really happen that way? Or did I forget that? Or did I remember that wrong? I mean, he says that's not what happened, but that's what I saw. And so all of that gaslighting just plays. And one thing that I had said to one of my clients was that you're gaslighting yourself. And when I said that to her, because she's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. And, he didn't mean it. And just all these little excuses. And I said, you're gaslighting yourself. You're telling yourself that it wasn't that bad when you know how bad it was. And so, really, really be aware of when you're downplaying your behavior or your talk to yourself, your self talk. Be very, very aware of that, because there are so many times that we will gaslight ourselves in order to try to come up with some answers to make it all feel like it wasn't so bad. Okay. Okay. Questioning your decision. I used to do this on a daily basis. So think about it. You're sitting on the couch after the kids go to bed. It's quiet. Your brain whispers, was it really that bad? Maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe I overreacted. Gaslighting yourself, even though you know what really happened. You know there was lying. You know there was manipulation. You know there was disrespect. You know there was gaslighting. But your brain keeps second guessing your decision in the past instead of progressing. So you keep looking back. You keep looking back on all those behaviors and all the things that happened and the ways that you may have showed up. And I mean, really, if you think about it, I'm pretty sure that you took your decision to leave very, very seriously. I don't think it was a whimsical thing, because I think if it was whimsical, you wouldn't do this to yourself. I think the part of you that took this decision extremely seriously um, means you took your vows seriously. It means that coming to the conclusion that divorce was what needed to happen here. And I think because of the torment of that, this is what happens to us, is we get caught in this cycle. Okay, so what all these moments have in common? Each of these moments have one thing in common. They keep your emotional power tied to another person's actions. So let's think about this. You're waiting for them to apologize. You're waiting for them to explain themselves. You're waiting for them to change. You're waiting for them to understand your pain. But closure begins when you take back your power. Okay, I want to share Natalie's story with you, and I'm going to move my, whoa, um, I lost, I was going to move my thing, but now I don't know that I can. Oh, there it is. Okay, we're going to move this a little bit. All right, so Natalie and a part of her story. I made it through the divorce with Michelle's help, and I had a home that I felt safe in, but there were still loose ends of things with my ex. So we would have supper to go over things, and he was so kind and caring to me, and I thought maybe he had changed. He said he was going to therapy and even gave me the therapist's name. I spent several months thinking maybe we would get back together. Michelle was able to show me what to look for. If his actions were true, then certain things would show themselves. And if not, there would be signs of that also. We had been working on my awareness, and this made so much of the difference for me. It was when his secret bombshell landed that I was glad I had the levelity to deal with it. It doesn't mean I didn't have some pretty angry feelings about it, but I saw how he was still trying to control my life, and because I now have the mental and emotional strength to take charge and handle the situation. I'm not sure how I would have done this without Michelle. She's been here to guide me through each step, all the while helping me to grow into the strong, independent woman I am today. So let's go to our, well, we're going to do that again. The solution. I'm going to move you back over. Maybe. Hold on just a second. Okay, here's our solution. Creating your own closure. The steps that shift your healing from waiting to deciding. There we go. The shifts that create closure. So closure starts when you stop asking, what do they need to do for me to move on? And start asking, what can I decide for myself right now? This is where the healing begins. This is such a epic shift because I want to really break this down for you guys. I want you to really see the picture of this. Most people that end up in a narcissistic abusive relationship grew up with this kind of abuse or something pretty close to it. So your entire life, you have been trained to survive. You have been trained to look to find a safe place. So you're always looking outside yourself to figure out where you need to sit, where you need to be in order to be able to be safe, to be loved, to not be kicked out of the group or the clan, which is your family, okay? And so everything inside of your body wants to continue to externally look out to look for that validation. And so that's why this shift is so epic, is because we have to turn and look inward. And that is not an easy feat. That when we start thinking about, I'm the one that has the power over me, I'm the one that gets to choose what my life looks like. I'm going to be the one that decides what I want to do and when I want to move forward. And that is the epic shift. But this is why it's so difficult for survivors of this type of abuse to look inside themselves because we've spent our entire life externally waiting for the validation so that we could stay safe. And now we have to remember and to know that we are our own safe space. Okay? Step one, let's accept what you already know. Let's take a minute and look at this. Tuesday afternoon, you see a message from them, and your mind immediately starts wondering, maybe they're finally going to explain everything. Will this conversation help bring more answers to me or leave me feeling more confused than before? This is the moment where closure begins. Instead of opening the door to hope again, you pause and you say to yourself, I already know everything I need to know about this situation. I don't need to know anything more. You remind yourself, I know how I was treated. I know how I felt, and I know what was not okay. And you stop searching for new answers. That decision alone can end hours of emotional spiraling. And this is one of those things where you can work to, just really be intentional about the things that are coming up in your mind. That awareness is the first step. And accepting what you already know is actually making yourself absolutely aware of the facts, of the things that happened, of the ways that you felt, of the way you were treated. All of these things, they matter. Step two, become your own protector. Here's another moment. You're lying in bed replaying something they said to you years ago, and your brain keeps arguing with them in your head. You're trying to prove your point. If you remember, arguing with a narcissist is kind of futile because they just keep arguing and they keep arguing and they keep arguing until you finally give in. And my go-to was whatever. And that was my point of I'm done. I'm not going to argue about this anymore. I'm just tired of talking about this, okay? So the same thing goes for us. We go to try to prove our point. They dig in. They're not going to, okay? Instead, this is the moment that you get to shift. So instead of trying to prove your point, you can ask yourself, if someone spoke to my child that way, what would I tell her to do? And you'd probably say, you don't deserve that. Okay. So anytime that, you're arguing with somebody and they're not wanting to hear you. They just keep at not hearing your point and fighting with you about it, okay? Then you can just release. You can just release that and say, you know what? I'm just going to protect myself. I'm going to just move on from here. So give yourself that same protection that you would give a child and stop arguing with them in your mind and start standing up for yourself. Okay? Number three, let yourself feel the grief. Another moment women experience is you're sitting in the car after dropping your kids off, you suddenly feel a wave of sadness. Many women immediately push it away and think, I need to be strong. Shove those feelings down, right? But just like when we shove that beach ball down into the water, we can only do that for so long and then it shoots up. And so that's what happens here too. Closure actually requires the opposite. In that moment, you allow yourself to say, you know what, this really hurts. It really stinks. I don't like it at all. And you allow yourself to feel the grief and the anger and the disappointment. Feeling these emotions actually helps your brain to process and release them, and it helps you to heal faster. So one of the things that I like to do with myself is I will say, you know what? I feel so angry about this right now. And I also know that this feeling will pass and that I have things I need to get done. Or I know that this anger is just a feeling in the moment and that I can move forward from here into the direction that I want despite feeling the anger. Okay, so let's do a quick reflection exercise. All right, so I want you, this is where you can write it in the chat. Take a moment and think about this. Sharing, I'm reading. Oh, okay. I was reading something off of TikTok. So, what is one moment in your week where you find yourself getting pulled back into the past? So, number one, is it when you receive a message from them? Number two, when you're alone at night? Number three, when you're making decisions about your kids, write down what that moment is for you and feel free to put it in the chat if you would like. My mouse is crazy tonight. Okay, let's see. What moment? What is one moment in your week? I'm trying to understand what you're asking me, Brandy. And what is one moment in your week where you find yourself getting pulled back into the past? When you receive a message, when you're alone at night, or when you're making decisions about your kids. So, number one is when you receive a message from them. Number two is when you're alone at night. And number three is when you're making decisions about your kids. Trying to figure out where to put this. Okay, probably three or maybe two. When you're making decisions about your kids, that's when you get pulled back into the past or when you're alone at night. So let's look at number three because kids playing into the equation is a big deal with us single mamas that are, trying to protect the children, these beautiful children that we have from the abuse that comes from the narcissist. And so making decisions about the kids forces us to work with the ex, the narcissistic ex. And so it puts us in a very compromising position. And I remember, I want to tell you this, I remember there was a gal that I was following on Instagram, and she had taken her six kids and they left and they lived in an RV camper. She got full custody of her children. So they didn't have to have any exposure, any contact with the dad or the ex at all. And I was just like, and I mean, she seemed free and healthy and healing and all of these things. And I was just like, I have constant contact with my ex about the children because there's five children. There's so much going on. I'm never going to heal. And so I reached out to her because I was just like crying out for help. And I remember her saying, "You can do this. It's just going to take some different tools for you to do this." And I was just like, okay, I can do this. So her just telling me that was huge for me because I knew that I was going to just have to figure this out. And I'm not the only one that has to have constant contact with their ex because of the children. Okay. So plan out time to work through these three steps to closure that you learned tonight. Accept, protect, and feel. Because that's where closure works. That's where the work begins. And so I want to talk about making decisions about the kids for a second because I would like to offer a little bit more there other than me coughing. Hold on, let me see what I can do about that. I'm so sorry. So if we go back, we know we need to protect our children. But let's go back to step one to accept what you already know. So let's write down the facts that we know about. We know we're going to have contact with X. We know that our children have to go back over there right now by law. We know that there's going to be behaviors that happen over at dad's house that you would never allow at your house. Accept what you already know about how you want to show up in this situation. Calm, cool, collected. That's what we all wish for, right? So, first of all, make that list of everything that you already know that has to do with your children and like how their dad's going to show up. What you know are the facts of the thing. They have to go over to his house at these times. Um, they have to spend, that time with him. you are going to have a lot of contact with him, and that is going to basically mean that you are going to have to become stronger than the average bear, which just because you've been through the abuse makes that true. And then when you have to have this constant contact with him, that means that you get to do that times 10. And I know that that sounds like a lot, but when I actually was just like, okay, this is what I have to do. This is what's going to happen because there was no other way that I could see. Then I just accepted that that's the way it was. And when I did that, I was able to be like, okay, now that I know this, these are the things, this is what I need to do next. Become your own protector. This is where you have to think about what is best for your children. You have to think about what's best for you. You have to protect your peace and your sanity. And a lot of you have probably heard of gray rock. I've talked about that in the past about gray rock, that it's when you look through a text that they send you, that because we talked about that a couple times in here, is that basically what you're going to do is you're going to look for only the facts in that text. There's going to be probably a ton of garbage. There's going to be some twisted words. There may be some accusations, but you are only looking for the facts. And when you can do that and only respond to the facts with facts, then all of the drama is gone and you stop being a supply for them, because every time that you respond to all the other stuff, you are supplying them. It's exactly what they want. Okay. And then let yourself feel that grief. Let yourself feel that sadness that your family doesn't look the same now as it used to, that you have this split. Yes, it sucks. It's there. It hurts. And when we can just let ourselves sit in that and really, really feel it, and then really, really breathe through it, that's where we're going to be able to just let that grief be there and be like, okay, it's here and I have to move on. I've got things to do. And it diminishes a lot faster. Okay. I hope that was helpful. So I would now like to talk about the program that I have that I mentioned on the very, very first slide called Heal You, Heal Your Kids. This is a deeper look at the full healing journey. So, closure is one piece of the healing. Creating closure is a powerful step, but most women also need support in four key areas of healing. So, that's what we focus on inside my program, Heal You, Heal Your Kids. So, here is pillar one. It is stress, which this isn't about how much stress you have in your life. This is about how you deal with stress. So many women leave the relationship and their nervous system is still in survival mode. It is a wreck. This shows up in everyday moments like feeling tense when your phone buzzes, overthinking conversations, feeling emotionally drained by small interactions, just like always being hyper, like just feeling that tension in your body all the time. Inside the program, we work on calming that stress response so you can feel safe in your own life again. I teach you techniques that will help you calm yourself whenever these moments come up. Pillar two is confidence, because pretty much, I don't know about you, but when I left my relationship, I felt like I was scum of the earth. I felt like my confidence was completely shot. It had been completely deteriorated. They destroy the self-trust and the confidence. It's what they do, the narcissists. So even small decisions feel overwhelming, like wondering if you're reacting, questioning your parenting choices, second guessing your boundaries, not trusting yourself to even make simple decision. That's another one. That was one I had a problem with. Was, I didn't even trust myself to make a simple decision about sheets or about clothes or about something that the house needed. It's crazy that I did that, but I did. So inside the program, we rebuild your ability to trust yourself again and build your self-confidence back. Then pillar three is moving forward. Many women feel stuck after leaving. They know they don't want the past, but they aren't sure what comes next. So we work together to help you rebuild your identity and design a future that feels exciting again. And number four, this cut is off, but these are my babies. So I have five children. Pillar four is your kids and your family. One of the biggest concerns women share with me is how will this affect my kids? So inside the program, we focus on helping you by supporting your children emotionally, breaking unhealthy patterns, and creating a healthier family environment moving forward. So as I learned, I taught my children, and it's like I said, my girls are so stinking smart on this. They just have such a healthy way of looking at relationships and at just like when something's up, they know it immediately. But and they have chosen such amazingly healthy relationships with the people that they surround themselves with, and I'm just super proud of them. But it's because I was teaching them as I was going, and they picked up on everything so quick. So let's work together. Let's personalize support for your healing journey. Okay, how we can work together. In Heal You, Heal Your Kids, it's a 6-month coaching program, and it's one-on-one every week. You get a 1 hour session every week, just you and me. We will create closure. We will reduce emotional stress. We will rebuild your confidence, and I will show you how to move forward with clarity. And we will also help you teach your kids this too, because that I love so much. I love to teach my kids and watch them take what I teach them and move forward in the most amazing ways that I could never have imagined. So every woman's situation is different. So this work is deeply personalized. So the next step is to choose or to sign up for consultation. So if what we talked about today resonates with you, the next step is to book a private consultation. On this call, we'll talk about your situation, where you feel stuck, and whether the program is the right next step for you. And then we're also going to talk about where you would like to go in your life. Like what would make in 6 months, what would a 10 look like to you in the area of stress? How would you like to deal with it? All those kinds of things. And so we really get into the nitty gritty of that. Thank you, Faye. She said, I have lovely children. Okay, so here's the bonus is when you book your consultation by Friday and you're going to receive the 4 steps to closure workbook. Okay, so these are the 4-step closure formula. It will walk you through the full closure framework, give you exercises and tools to start healing immediately, even before we start working together. So know that when you book that consultation, you're going to get this awesome workbook in order to be able to work on your own. We can do it in a session. It's completely up to you. A lot of people like to have help, but then there's some that are perfectly happy to do it on their own. Totally up to you. All right. So in closing, there is the QR code if you would like to sign up for a a, s- a call, booking your call. Wow, I just lost all of it there. So you can do the QR code and also